Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deep Thynkers Society. Today, we have a very special guest with us. She is an author, a speaker, and a beacon of inspiration for many. She's the woman behind the empowering books, Be Fucking Amazing, and I Can Be Whatever I Want. Yes, you guessed it, and you're right. We're thrilled to welcome Deborah Lucero to our show today. Recently, Deborah graced the Embracing Your Life Journey event in Arizona, where she enlightened the audiences about the 7 spiritual centers for realization. Her words have the power to ignite a spark within us, to push us towards our true potential and remind us that we indeed can be whatever we want. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. Deborah, thank you for being with us.
Hi there. I'm doing great. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. We've been talking about you all week and sharing with everybody to expect, to hear from you pretty soon and all your, unique, perspectives on self-awareness and whatnot. So why don't we jump right in? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a mother of 2, and I was married for about almost 30 years. And my husband passed away a couple years ago. So now it's just me, and I'm relearning how to be single, how to be on my own. It is a challenge. It is very different, especially after all those years.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful that I have a wonderful set of coping skills now, probably from the last 7 years or so. And I'm also blessed that I now understand how powerful our minds are, our brain, and how that power can just be utilized to keep you going and to turn things around. So right now, I actually also work with children. I am an occupational therapy assistant. That is my background.
Awesome.
And so I went back to work part-time doing that.
That's
And
wonderful.
yes, kids
I have a
are
special needs child.
definitely,
That's wonderful.
they're so fun to be around. So it's the highlight of my day. And I'm also a grandmother of 2 grandchildren. I have a granddaughter that I wrote a children's book with in 2020.
Is that the one? Let me see. I think I read about your book. It was the I Can Be Whatever I Want book. Is that it?
Yes. So she illustrated all the pictures, and we kind of created the book based on a conversation that we had. And so we just went ahead with it. And then
That's
my
so special.
grandson, her brother, yes, is a couple years, well, he's about 5 years younger than her. So she's almost 12 now, and he's 7.
Aw.
So I
Yeah,
think
you
that,
know that's going to be something that she cherishes, forever.
yes, for sure.
Definitely.
That's wonderful. So I do know that you recently gave a lecture with the Embrace Your Journey Expo. I love that expo. I worked it quite a few times myself. So positive. And,
Mhm.
would you like to talk a little bit about, your lecture and the
Sure.
knowledge you shared? Yeah.
Sure. So what I did is I talked about the 7 spiritual centers for self-realization. And at the end of the lecture, I offered what I call mini chakra readings. And what that is like a soul to soul connection. And I connect with the person energetically. And then I just go through each chakra and I read their energy to look for any blockages that might be, where they're harboring emotion or trauma, maybe, an event or an incident or a conversation that's just holding them back. And then I come up with some type of an energy healing technique that I suggest for them. So that way they can kind of work through that, at least, for a good 7 days, and just try and see if they can release that energy. Because as you all know, when our energy is flowing, that's when we're at our best. And that's essentially what the lecture was about. And so I'll kind of go through how that went. I opened up with the energy centers and how they're responsible for balancing all levels of our well-being, psychological and emotional, as well as our, spiritual well-being. And I'm sure you all have heard of, that chakra is the Sanskrit meaning for wheel or spinning wheel. And there's 72,000 nadis, or those little energy connection points in the body. And so we have those energy centers that run along both sides of our body, the little acupressure points that acupuncturists can actually go in and use with their needles. And the seven main regions that most people talk about or that we learn are the seven chakras.
So that
And
would be your seven. Is it your seven spiritual centers for real
yes,
self-realization? Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
those are the seven spiritual centers that we're talking about in this lecture. And they're all associated with a color, with an emotion, all of those basic concepts there. And of course, the upper four are more for love and compassion, communication, and understanding and knowledge. And the lower three are like the basic needs, where you have your, feeling safety, feeling love, feeling secure, things like that. And as each chakra is balanced, it opens and it spins, and that energy just elevates and moves up to the next one. So once you get above the three lower, you get into the heart chakra, and that's where the magic starts happening when you get into these higher level chakras. And so I'll just touch base a little bit on the names of them. I won't attempt to say them in Sanskrit. I will definitely just stick to English. So of course, the first one is the root chakra. And of course, that one is usually associated with the color red and just well-being, and just feeling that security and that safety and knowing that you're going to be okay. And then the next one is the sacral chakra, and that one, of course, is, the orange because it goes like the rainbow. And that one is the I do or the I create center. And, both procreation and also creative ideas, right?
Yeah.
And then as you move up to the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, excuse me, right underneath the rib cage, that is the I do center. That's your power center right there.
Joy.
So you're going to get up and go, and that's what's going to get you through it. And that's the yellow. And also, that's a very difficult area. If you hold anger, a lot of it is right there in that solar plexus. So yeah, it's very important to get that energy flowing. And as I said, if you move up to the heart, that one is green usually. And there's your compassion and your love, all of those higher level emotions that are really going to get you feeling that gratitude and appreciation and just care, not just care for yourself, but care for all living beings. And then communication is blue. And that one is just for, how you are able to communicate your wants, your needs, your frustrations, your expectations, your boundaries. That's a huge one for everyone, I think, is just being able to lay down those boundaries. And then as you move up to your third eye, and that's like that violet color. And that one is just, your third eye is just that intuition and being able to be connected and being open to all that is, in the universe. And then, of course, the last one is the crown. And that is just knowledge, just being able to be aware. And I really feel like that's where the self-realization blooms and blossoms, is once you get in those higher levels.
That makes a lot of sense. And is it accurate to say that the chakras spin one direction, and then maybe when they are blocked, they might spin in another direction, or maybe be too large or too small and need
Yes.
a better flow.
Definitely, definitely. When I do energy healing techniques and I teach people how to clear their chakras, we're always going in a clockwise direction when we're trying to get things moving. And yes, you're right. They do get either too big or too, closed down. And that's where we end up harboring, as I said, those emotions of, they're not really bad emotions. I don't know if there's really, good and bad. I think if
Right.
we can stay away from that. But I think maybe those really tough emotions, really strong emotions, like the anger, the frustration, feeling disappointed, and feeling, even the self pity is a big one that's going to
Mm-hmm.
keep you from being able to step into your best self.
What is your recommendation when, we all have we come into this world one way, and then, we get conditioned with our circumstances, and, so we get out of kilter with our energy systems. But, some of us are not as good at asking for help, and we might go on the path of, self transformation. I know that I've pretty much, done that on my own growing through life. And I too have done, a lot of healing work and whatnot. So I'm right there with you. But for, from your perspective, what would you say? Let's say somebody notices a pattern in their life where they're stuck in survival mode, and not the type of survival mode where they feel that they don't have enough money, but maybe survival mode in the sense that, that they aren't good enough, maybe in relationships or whatnot. What would be your advice if they are choosing to maybe try to heal themselves to get that energy flowing through properly?
That's a beautiful question. And the answer to that comes from personal experience because I was right there. Like I say, about 7 years ago, I hit hard and I hit rock bottom, like completely. And I used to say that that my health failed me, but I now realize that I failed my health. And so I say that because I was not taking care of myself. I was not setting boundaries. I was not realizing that I was valuable. And so that compounded the situation. And at the time, I didn't know what to do because everything that I had tried to improve my health was not working. And pretty much the majority of my life, all areas, both, health, finances, relationships, they were bottomed out. And what I did, and what I do recommend, is that you take stock. And it is very hard, but you have to get to that point and you have to be honest with yourself, kind, but honest,
Self
and say
accountability.
Yep.
what is working and what is not. And for me, too many things were not working. And so I really needed to make some huge changes. And one technique that was so successful for me, and I recommend, I wrote about it in my book, is emotional freedom techniques tapping meditation. And it's a form of meditation. And what you do is, it's called a personal peace procedure. You can Google that and it'll give you all the information on how to do it and the questions to ask. Essentially, what you do is you take those areas of life: health, wealth, love, and happiness. You can go broader if you want to, into professional work, success, but at least those four areas. And you really take stock and you decide, okay, how do I feel on a daily basis? What am I eating? How am I sleeping? How am I communicating my needs? Am I setting time aside for myself? And as you answer those questions on paper, then you assign an emotion that you are feeling as you are completing that particular sentence or phrase. And that way you know what you're harboring. So if you're looking at health, I was frustrated. Like so much of my emotion was anger and frustration. And so what you do after that is you take those emotions and those frustrations and you start tapping, which is, as I said, it's an emotional freedom technique meditation.
So like
And
literally happen? Like
literally
literally?
tapping on the acupressure points. So it is a psychological, uh, a excuse me, it is a spiritual and psychological technique that you can do to go ahead and tap on those energy centers that are on both sides of the body. And as you do that, you're giving your emotions a voice. And as you do that, it clears out and it's so amazing. You can feel a difference in less than 15 minutes. I kid you not.
Wow.
And it
That's
just
really
lifts.
awesome.
And the way it works is there's a little gland in your brain, your midbrain right around here, and it's called the amygdala. And it stores 4 emotions. It stores fear and sadness and anger and joy.
Mm.
And if you think about it, 3 of those are very strong emotions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That little gland is
Wow.
responsible for the stress response signal, and it
Mm.
secretes adrenaline and cortisol and all of those stress hormones.
Yeah.
So as you start tapping on the body, there's, different tapping points, and you go through that as you're saying phrases. It's best, I'm upset. I really don't like this situation. I don't know what to do. I'm mad. Every
Mm.
day, the same situation, whatever's frustrating you. And as you go through that and you tap through it, you'll get to a point. Sometimes it takes longer than you think, but you'll get to a point where you're kind of like, okay, I've released, I've said the truth, what's bothering me. And then you start going into some positive affirmations.
Mm.
I think I can handle this. I love myself. I feel better. I'm ready to take a different approach to this situation. And you go through and you get to the end and you're at the end, you're saying, which is top of the head, you're saying, and I'm willing to release this emotion right now.
Mm.
And then you take a deep breath and you release. And it just, as I said, it's what it does is it stops or blocks the stress response signal in the body.
Mm.
And then you can start opening up because you start feeling that joy. And when
It
you feel
allows you
joy,
to
Yeah.
you feel
So
love,
rewire your response.
appreciation.
question regarding that. I love that. I've heard about tapping before. One through the singer artist, or the singer Pink. I'm sorry, the singer Pink.
Yes.
She does tapping, and I believe she was even on a talk show and talked about it. And she even shared the affirmations that she says while she's tapping. And so the way that you describe the tapping is that you essentially start with the anger. Do you start with the anger when you're feeling anger, or can you counteract the anger by tapping into that joy feeling and start off with positive tapping affirmations? Or do you have to work through it? Is it like you're digging, right? And you have to go through these layers. So do you have to start with those anger emotions and dig to the joy? Or can you immediately start with the joy? Can you tap with joy
You can
rather
do
than
it
going to those
both.
layers?
You can do
Okay.
it both ways. There's really no way to mess up. So
Uh,
if you are frustrated, and there was very little joy. I mean, there was, but I couldn't see it
Yeah.
in the
right.
beginning. So
Yeah.
it's like you
Right.
said,
Yeah.
I had to dig and I
Okay.
had to,
Yeah.
Okay.
because it was there and it wasn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
Like I
Sometimes
couldn't.
I'm on a work meeting call and I'm like, Oh my goodness. Can I tap into this joy right now? Like,
Yes,
on a
yes.
frustrating work call? That probably would be
Awesome.
weird if, we're on camera and they start seeing me do this. But I
But you
mean,
know what?
whatever
I have
works.
a I have a I have a point for you right here.
Nice. Okay.
And you can do that while nobody sees, right?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yes,
I love that for myself.
yes. That one is a
Awesome.
really good center to release a lot of emotion. Yes, right
Do
there.
Mhm.
you need to
Or
be
side of the hands, either one of these.
Right here.
this
Yep.
ties back to your self-realization. So here we are thinking, we're in the moment. We're when we're feeling an emotion intensely, a lot of times we are not necessarily in our right mind, but yet we want to regulate, right? So
Mhm.
my question is do we need to gather ourselves and have some realization when we're tapping, or can we create a habit where if we know we're overwhelmed and we start tapping that center, that it'll help us maybe gather ourselves and then regulate that way? I mean, is that how it works?
Yes, it does. So as I said in the beginning, it was just pretty much anger. I was addicted to anger and misery, and that's pretty much what I had to flush out. And
Yeah.
then as I started feeling, the joy, and I could see, oh, this is working. I can do this. Then I started doing, as I said, that whole list of every life aspect, health, wealth, love, and happiness. And then it became a habit. And then I started doing it daily. And I still tap, but I do it in a little bit different way. As you mentioned, if you could do the positive. So many days I do just positive affirmations, or when I wake up in the morning, it's already such a habit. As soon as I wake up, I start tapping here. This is the motherboard. This is known as K27, a couple inches below the collarbones. And you just tap right there, and every acupressure point is connected here.
Mhm.
So when
I've
I wake
seen.
up, I automatically start tapping here. And as I'm going through my gratitude practice, I'm already calming myself for the day. So I'm
So
using it proactively.
how do you do that for children? So I have a special needs child who is DMDD, which is a dysregulation of the moods. And I want to teach her techniques like this, or, have her, maybe learn through somebody else. But like, do they need to, like have those positive thoughts? Like, what if they just need to de-escalate? Do they need to say positive things, or can they just tap themselves to calm down?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You don't even need a script. A lot of people need a script in the beginning because, as I said, I couldn't even see the good, the joy in my life at that time. It didn't naturally feel grateful. And so I needed that script because all that was in my mind was negative thoughts. I'm sick.
Right.
I'm tired. I feel like a 90-year-old woman. I'm angry. I hate my life. I don't like who I am. And I needed to hear someone else's. So there's scripts that you can use. I'm going to recommend two wonderful people that saved my life, actually, because if I had not found this technique, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you all. So
I
the
would love
first
that.
one is the tapping solution,
Okay.
and that's the Ortners, Nick Ortner, Jessica Ortner, and Alex Ortner. And they do teach tapping for children. They have a children's book. It's called Gorilla Thumps, and they do it in a wonderful way. They have even children's videos. Now their children are making videos for children.
Oh,
That's
wow.
awesome.
That's really awesome.
It is. The other person is Brad Yates. He's on YouTube. He has over 1,000 tapping scripts videos. So anything you can think of that you have an issue with, he probably has a video for.
Are either one of them in Arizona by chance? Or is this what you found out on your own?
I found out on my own. Brad is, I'm trying to remember where he is. I know the Ortners are on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they're in the town that they had that school shooting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so they do.
Storybrooke? Is it
Yes,
Storybrooke?
they're
Yeah.
they're in that area there. And then Brad, as I said, I'm not sure if he's Midwest, but yes, you can find them both on YouTube, and they have websites. And yes, they are my number one go-tos. Yes.
Thank you for that. I will definitely be looking at. I'm going to put those in our show
Yes.
notes
And
too, in
Brad
case anybody
Yeh,
else.
he has his daughter when she was younger, and they have videos for children. Yes.
That's wonderful.
So that way we can get started.
Yeah, that's awesome. What other takeaways can we have from your lecture that you gave at the expo?
Yes, the other takeaways that I gave for the lecture was just tying it all in to being able to live a full life and understanding that self-realization is doable. When I first realized what it was, and taught, because I have schooling, my education taught me about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you all have heard of that, but Maslow was a psychologist, and he put together this pyramid of needs, and there's 5 levels. And it essentially covers the areas that are within the 7 spiritual centers or the 7 chakras, and needing to feel, your shelter, your safety at the very basic level. And then as you move up, being loved, and then being compassionate, and, learning, and then understanding how you can give to the world and make impact. And then just self-actualization, just knowing that you're more than just this body.
Yeah.
And that if we can tap into and go beyond our mind and all of those thoughts that are keeping us from being the grand, beautiful beings that we are, because we're both human and divine.
Yeah.
And it's our human side that gets in the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Right? And if we
Yeah.
can find techniques, little life hacks, right, to get beyond the environment, body, space, and time, as Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about when he teaches his visualization technique. That's another technique that I totally used when I was transforming my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you
He's
can't
awesome.
feel those higher level emotions while you're visualizing how you want your life to be, how you want your body to be, how you want your communication to be, your relationships,
Yep.
you're not going to connect,
Right.
because you're not going to make that electromagnetic connection, as he says, because you have to have the thoughts and you have to have the emotions. You have to be in sync
The heart
with your
brain.
thoughts and with how you feel. Because if you're not, our brains and our bodies are too smart, and we're going to be off balance, and we're not going to send out that vibe, right? It's not about 10 years can go by, and if we're not vibing right, we're never going to see any results.
The good thing about these techniques that we're talking about, and just, self-awareness and self-realization, is that no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how evolved at any point you have, overcome, from previous ways of being, we all forget. We get in modes where life happens and we forget, and we sometimes go in automatic mode, or we revert to old ways. And it's, once we have the muscle memory around a lot of these techniques like you're talking about, we could catch it, and and bring ourselves back and be like, you know what, this isn't who I am. I forgot, I forgot. Let me ground myself. And because I think that there's a misunderstanding a lot of times when people have wisdom, or when people have healed a lot or grown a lot, and then they see a darker side of you. And then they're like, who's this? This isn't,
Exactly. Right.
I've come to realize that spirituality for me has been an ebb and flow. Right? I have my very high points where I'm vibrating very high. Everything's great. And then I've had my very low points where, nothing is going right. I'm not happy. I can't feel gratitude in my heart. And then and then I'm back up here again. But I think that's essential for growth, and not just in a spiritual aspect. I think just overall in life, but in a spiritual aspect, I mean, how are we going to have those lows? How are we going to grow? So we're going to keep going higher and higher and higher. Like that ebb and flow is very necessary. I think maybe eventually you can reach a point of, um, just like evenness, but I still think you're still going to have some ebb and flow. I don't think shadow work is ever really completely
We're
done.
human. We're human. We're always going to have a shadow.
Exactly. So we're always going to be learning, even at the most greatest spiritual person, they are still growing.
Yep.
I just feel I'm constantly growing and there's no finish line.
Yeah.
One thing about us, we have to see a finish line. And if we don't, what are we working towards? Well, who says we
That's
need
where we get our motivation. That's
that?
where the
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. But let's just keep growing. Let's just keep growing. You're never going to be the, the creme de la creme of the spiritual wisdom world. You're always going to be learning. You're always going to be growing.
Right.
I'm thankful for that ebb and flow, because I know that I'm never going to I'll be here at this place one time only. I might come down a little bit, but next time I'm going to be up here. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for those highs and those lows.
Carissa, you brought it in great because, Deborah wrote a book called Be Fucking Amazing. Am I right? And I think that that word in particular is a shadow word. I would love to hear about that book as well.
Yes, my book, as I mentioned, it talks about, how to use the power of the mind, positive thoughts, and an abundant mindset to reprogram your mind to change your life. And I have 70 healing insights in there. As I said, when I started turning things around, I just dove right in. I was listening to courses, videos, audios, podcasts, reading books, doing the, journal, do every type of self-development that I could get my hands on. It was Tony Robbins, it was Ty Lopez, it was Dr. Joe Dispenza, it was Dr. Bruce Lipton, it was, for the ladies, it was Dr. Catherine Winthrop, and it was Christiane Winthrop, sorry. I'm trying to think of all their names. There's so many. Mary Ayers, and just so many that I gained so much insight. And what I did is I took the book and I made the chapters to be detox, releasing emotion, mindset, exercise and physical activity, reprogramming your mind.
That's
because
awesome.
that's what it took to get my stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say detox, it wasn't just what I was eating. It was who I was listening to. It was who I was talking to. It was what I was thinking, my own thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the environment I was around, relationships, just everything had to be cleaned out. And then the releasing the emotion, what better way than with the emotional freedom techniques, tapping meditation, just get it all out.
Did you have a pivotal, like you said, you hit rock bottom? We all hit rock bottom when it's inevitable that we need to change, right?
Right.
When you hit rock bottom, I mean, do you mind sharing what was it that broke the camel's back for you?
I was in pain pretty much day and night. I would even wake up in pain.
Oh.
And I had several medical conditions. That was the medical piece, the health piece. Relationship wise, I did not have a good relationship with my mother growing up, and it just got worse. I think what broke the camel's back was my grandmother passing away in 2012 because she was my mother figure. And I
Yeah.
had all of that going on. My finances were a mess because I was ill and couldn't work. My marriage was strained because of the financial and, just being ill and grouchy and not knowing how to cope with all of that.
Yeah.
So that was just, I woke up one day and I marched into the living room and I just told my husband, I hate my life and who I have become. And I don't care what it takes, but this will be the last year that I live like this.
Good for
And,
you. You give me chills.
Took
and
accountability right there.
I just said, I'm just done with it. And I did everything I could. And I want to go back to the piece where Carissa talks about, that ebb and flow, or you kind of go up, kind of go down. And it's true. Life is just life. We're always going to have some kind of something that we're going up against, or there's, that mountain, or, that struggle. And it's not bad. What we have to learn, because we were conditioned that, we just have to be walking in the park and skipping and, no, life is not always pretty. But we have to learn is how to cope with that, and that it's not the end of the world. It may feel like it, but it's not the end of the world, and we're gonna be okay.
Yep.
No, I describe that exact thing. I think both of you are totally on it. I look at it more like a spiral, but a spiral up. So we'll come back around to a place where it seems familiar, but we'll be a little bit higher. And so we can look at it from a new perspective. We'll see that old pattern, and then maybe it'll happen again and again, and we're just always ascending to
Yes.
a higher version of ourselves, but we're looking down, maybe repeat patterns with the opportunity to look at it again.
Right. And then the other piece of that I want to emphasize is, how you said we fall into old patterns. That's absolutely it. Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about how, 98% of the day, our thoughts are negative, and we're thinking pretty much the same thoughts every day, And so how do we expect our lives to get better if we're constantly having that negative self-talk?
Yeah, you're amplifying. It's
know?
becoming a loop within you instead of a loop of positivity and gratitude. You're changing it. But
Yes.
also what you're saying, you have to take responsibility for your relationship and your marriage to your bad thoughts or to your bad times as well, and how to navigate those correctly so that you essentially don't go back into that loop. And instead of being afraid of it, welcoming it and understanding
Yes.
it, and that you're just getting into some unfamiliar, or it shouldn't be unfamiliar. It should be waters that you're coming into, and you need to just do some adjusting, and you'll be able to get back to where you need to go, and it'll even out eventually.
I love that. That's perfect explanation. Perfect. Awesome. And another thing that Dr. Bruce Lipton emphasizes is that emotional freedom techniques tapping meditation taps you into a super learning process. So if you want to quit smoking, have a bad habit, overeating, bad relationships, whatever it is, that negative self-talk just in itself, you can tap through that and change those programs. He claims in 15 minutes flat, and I can be the speaker on that, because it changed me. I kid you not. I used to wake up very angry every day and just miserable.
I think too, we forget how to be children and play and have fun, and we get too serious. So I kind of wanted to see if you're interested in playing a little word association game real quick before
Sure.
we.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I play all day. I have the best job now because I'm back to playing with kids all day long.
I want to challenge all of us, and I'm going to give you a word, and then when I tell you that word, I want you to try to find like a happy or a fun or funny memory, or even something you've seen or heard. It doesn't have to be yours, that you associate with that word. And so the challenge is that the word you might not be able to find. something. So that's kind of like why it's going to be fun. So since Anthony is invisible to the camera, but he has such an awesome voice, I'll do you first. Are you okay
Yeah.
with that, Anthony?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the word is black.
Black.
How could you turn that word into something, a memory, or associate it to something positive or funny?
Yeah, what I associate black with now, as a 30-year-old who's gone through life, my own spiritual awakening, and a whole lot of things, black is the culmination of everything. You know, you see black and you think the void. You see black, you think that you can't see it, but it's literally the culmination of everything. It
That's true, and
is,
that's so positive.
yeah. It is the existence that we all. It's everything. It's all the matter around us. It's all the colors. It's everything into one. You know, you would think of like a black hole. Not me. You know, it's almost like I want to venture into that now with the new goggles that I have on and the new glasses. But yeah, at one time I might not have been able to draw much out of black. You know, outside of
That's
what I had
awesome.
said, a void, you know, nothingness, immediately like black hole, you know, but I don't see it as such anymore. See everything.
Yeah, like we can't see you right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm black.
It's like perfect.
Yeah. No coincidence.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. And we'll go to Maddie Frequency next. Maddie, are you ready? Okay, here we go, Matt. Tap into your crown chakra and channel that wisdom. What comes to you, what memory or thought or positive comes to you when I say the word fog? Fog. FOG, fog. Because fog does have a underlining vibe to it that isn't necessarily, but how could you take that word or that feeling that is associated with fog and put a positive memory spin, anything to it? What do you think of when you hear the word fog? Well, I'm going to give you a minute. We'll come back. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. All right. Okay, Miss Carissa, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, what comes to your mind that's more of a positive spin when you hear the term broken? How would you change that word?
Immediately, what came to mind was an article that I came across. It might have even been on Facebook, and how I've had friends in the past say I'm damaged goods, I'm broken, yada yada. And to counteract that, if a friend was sitting in front of me and said that they were feeling broken, I would say, well, let me tell you, friend, let me share something with you. You might feel broken, but we can put you back together. The Japanese, when they break a bowl, they don't discard it. They put it back together, and they use gold to put the pieces back together. So you might be feeling broken right now, but you'll be okay. And I love that Deborah said, life might be tough, but it's going to be okay. And I've always felt that. My grandma's always say, it's tough right now, but you're going to be okay. And I always believe that. So no, friend, you're not broken. You are just a masterpiece in the works. You're going to be fused together with gold, and you're going to go back to working as a bull.
Those bowls are beautiful.
Aren't they? I would love one. I would love one. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
No.
All right, Miss Deborah, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. What would you tell us and give us a different memory, spin, thought, or perspective when you hear the word nasty?
nasty. I would probably turn it into a tapping, that even though I'm having these nasty thoughts, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself.
I love
And I would
that.
just keep going through it.
Yep.
I will say, when I first started tapping, I could not say love and
And
what is
feel
it?
it.
Love, accept, and what did I just say? Love, accept, and forgive. I could only barely say accept.
Mm.
So when you start that, see if it triggers something, because I could not say it out loud. I couldn't even say it in my mind.
Well, I do know that I've had times in my life, and thank God I'm not that human anymore, but I wouldn't even look in a mirror as I walked past it in like a store. Or, there was a time where I wouldn't even listen to my own voice when I would know that I had to hear it. Because to me, the sight of myself and the sound of my voice was so horrible that it was bad enough that everybody else had to see it. I didn't want to, I'd rather stay inward and see the me I really knew, which wasn't really like that. But if I looked in the mirror, then it would show me that I was just tricking myself. But I'm glad that I'm not that human anymore, where I'm scared, but I know that you're right. There are things in our life that we can't say. There are people who cannot tell themselves they love themselves. They just can't say it, and I think that's where we have the common goal, because my goal really is helping people have more self-awareness and being comfortable being who they are, even if other people don't like it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to just wrap it up. I want to give Matt and Anthony and Chris and anybody out there in the audience, if you want to put anything in the chat, and just have you all, if you want to take turns and ask Deborah something before we wrap it up. Anybody?
I have a question. So, Deborah, when somebody comes to you and they would like a session, I guess I'm just curious, like how the approach is. If I were to say, hey, Deborah, I think I might need like some kind of energy healing. I'm having lower back pain. Would you still connect with their energy or their soul to figure it out? Or would you immediately know what that is and get to work?
I would connect with their soul.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I do within that is I do like a health scan.
Okay.
And it's our emotions that make us sick, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So what better way than to go through the chakra system, those 7 spiritual centers, and figure out what emotion is being harbored in there so that we can clear it out. Because with my occupational therapy background, I could probably ask you a few questions and figure out that, yes, you probably have some sciatica going on, or maybe you have a pulled muscle. But what's the real problem?
Underline.
Right?
Right. And that's where I was curious if your occupational therapy brain works in conjunction with your spiritual healing brain. And do you ever combine the two? You're like, we're going to go through these 7 centers and we're going to clear this out. But also, you probably should do some stretches in the morning and before bedtime.
Yes, exactly. And I'll say, okay,
holistic approach, right?
Yes, definitely. That way we get that subtle body and the physical body treated at the same time.
I love that. I love that. I love the overall holistic approaches. Like, I feel like we need more centers that will offer, like cannabis treatment on top of a chiropractic adjustment, on top of a Reiki healing, on top of, hey, let's get some tuning forks added in there. I'm hoping that our future looks more like that.
They're coming.
We need that. We need that.
I know of one that's coming. I'm
nice.
just saying, it's a secret, but it's coming.
Awesome. We'll need to let the cat out of the bag
100%.
soon.
I'm glad that you said that, Krista, because it's perfect timing in our world. We do need more of that. Other places for people to go get different answers and not the same answers they've always
Right.
gotten.
Yeah,
Exactly. More naturopathic. Absolutely.
definitely.
Maddie, you mentioned that you saw Deborah like 5 years ago, so you've known about her for a while. Is there anything you wanted to touch base on?
Well, no, I just saw the 5 year YouTube video. I'm not sure who it was, but yeah.
Okay.
No, but are
What
you
about
working?
you?
Are you working on anything new,
I
Deborah?
have a book that, or a transcript that is a collection of, I have done past life regression to help me work through a lot of the emotional and physical ailments.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And in the last year, because I do believe in the parallel realities, I'm realizing more that it probably would be more along that line rather than a past lives.
Yeah.
And
We've
I'll give
talked
you a
about
couple
that.
examples of why I would shift it to that. In last year, I had a astrological reading and astrology reading. Let me get it right. Astrology reading. And I was told to kind of be aware of the other versions of myself that might be stepping forward and kind of blocking me or getting in my way of what I was trying to accomplish. And then last month, well, I think it was, about a month and a half ago, I had an Akashic reading.
Ooh,
Wow.
wow.
Awesome. I have to have, and I have a wonderful provider. I think she
I
might even be in the audience. And so I was told, that I have some generational trauma, as we probably all do,
Yeah.
but we were clearing out and asking those versions of myself that were not ready to be healed to step aside so that I could go forward into my healing
Wow.
in this
That's wonderful. I
particular
heard that when you
version.
heal here, you heal all the other levels
Yeah.
too. So it's kind of like you got to take charge and put your foot down in
Yes.
this reality.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's how the astrology reading went, is that pretty much have to say, okay, this is my show right now.
Yeah,
Step back. Hmm.
that's awesome.
Calling your
I like
power. That's probably a layer of calling your power back that we all aren't aware of.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
I
That's amazing.
That's profound.
Very profound because I call my power back from everybody else, but never think about,
Right. Yes.
we have the old angel and devil on the shoulder,
Yeah.
getting rid of
Yeah.
that little devil like that, Carissa. Didn't think about that part. Wow.
Yes, it has changed my
Wow.
perspective. So
Yeah.
I am using that in journaling, when I'm doing my visualizations, when I'm clearing out with my tapping. Yep.
Yeah,
I
because when
get foresight that way. So like there are times where I used to use it in a negative perspective, but as I've grown, it's changed. But I'll get visions. Like this morning, I got up out of bed, and your brain is still half asleep and half awake, and so your brain hasn't fully left that sleep state. And I had this vision that my garage was a disaster, that it had been left open all night and something went in there and it was a disaster. And I was like, no. And I got up, and as I got up, I'm like, no, it's fine. I know it's fine. And it was. And moments like that, I feel like those aren't just out of the blue fears, because I would never just think that. I just think that I was aware of a parallel where that happened in that
Right.
moment when I
yeah.
had gotten up and I went to the garage and it was there,
Yeah.
and I was just thankful. And I even said, thank you that it wasn't here, because
Mhm.
I have enough going on in my life that I didn't need, my garage
Yeah.
torn apart. So I think that people sometimes think that their visions or fears, but really they're not just fears, they're just aware of our multi-level realities, and we just need to maybe utilize those for our gratefulness or for our changing our perspective on our here and now moment.
Right.
That's a great perspective. That's an awesome perspective.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, Deborah. This was super enlightening, and I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to know you, and our audience gets to hear all about your, different techniques and what worked for you, and we've definitely learned a lot. And so, thank you for being here tonight.
It's been an honor. Thank you all. And I want to just say that I commend you because I know what it takes to get together and do these live events and these podcasts. So it's a lot of work. It doesn't seem like, but it's a lot of planning.
Yep.
It's a lot of prep. It's a lot of coordination, organization. So yay to you all.
Well, I mean, I'm an astrologer, and I was not thinking that we're smart to do it in Mercury retrograde, like our first 3 episodes. And we've had some unique situations, but this one turned out great. So
yeah, we're here
thank you
and
so
it's
much.
happening. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you all
right, so
again.
I'm gonna stop the camera real quick here. I'm gonna stop the recording, and I don't want you to hang up.